ain't got no friends lying below that riverbank, waiting to pop up too. Johnny wheeled his horse around a couple of times, straining to get a better look at the man before he complied with Duke's order. He had his suspicions the same as Duke, and he wasn't anxious to become the sacrificial lamb in the event that there might be a welcoming party waiting to gain a herd of cattle. He don't look to be much more'n a kid, he finally decided. He might just be a stray looking for a job, he said. And we're damn sure short of men, he added. Or looking for a meal, Duke said, although he noticed that the young man was riding a stout-looking buckskin and was leading a pack horse. You going or not? I'm going, Johnny replied and wheeled his horse once again. Come on, Marvin. The two of them were off at a fast lope while Duke turned back to meet Rufus Jones, who was riding forward to meet him. I'm thinking about bedding them down in the mouth of this shallow valley where they can get to the water and there's plenty of good grass, Rufus called out as he pulled his horse to a stop. That all right with you? Yeah, hell, I don't see why not. I ain't wanting to try to push 'em across tonight, and that's a fact, Duke replied. They were driving close to 2,000 head of cattle, and by the time the boys riding drag caught up, it would most likely be approaching dusk. The herd had been strung out for about 2 miles since the noontime rest. Up ahead, Johnny and Marvin slowed their horses to a walk while both men scanned the brush and trees behind the lone stranger, alert to anything that didn't look right. With nothing to suggest foul play afoot, they walked their horses up to the rider awaiting them. Johnny was the first to speak. Well, young feller, what are you doing out here all by your lonesome? I was camping down the river a ways, Carson replied, and I saw you ride up, so I thought I'd say howdy, maybe visit a while if you're fixing to bed that herd down here. Johnny studied the young man carefully. He was young, right enough, but he was a husky fellow, and fairly tall, judging by the length of his stirrups. He could see no deceit in the deep blue eyes that gazed out at him. Why, sure, Johnny responded. Right, Marvin? He didn't wait for Marvin's answer. We're always glad to share a campfire with strangers. Where are you headed, anyway? Well, I was thinking about riding up to Fort Laramie and maybe catching on with the herd moving on through to Montana territory. Is that a fact? Marvin asked. Maybe you should talk to the boss. He nodded toward Duke Slayton, who was riding up behind them now, 'cause that's where we're pushing this herd, up Montana way. Maybe Lady Luck was following Luke, Carson thought, as a sturdy-looking man with a full face of gray whiskers rode up to join them. Like the two before him, he cast a sharp eye back and forth along the line of the bank behind Carson, figuring that if there was any funny business planned, it would already have been happening. He nodded to the young man. Howdy, young feller, he remarked. Where are you headed? Marvin answered before Carson had a chance. He's on his way to Fort Laramie, looking to catch on with the herd going to Montana. That brought a look of interest to Duke's face. Well now, is that so? You ever worked cattle before? Yes, sir. I just came up from Texas with the herd that belonged to Mr. Bob Patterson, but he only took 'em as far as Ogallala. How come you want to go to Montana? Duke asked. 'Cause I ain't never been there, Carson replied. Duke grinned. I reckon that's reason enough. Reminds me of myself when I was about your age. He paused to think about it a moment longer before deciding. We are short a man. He glanced at Johnny and shrugged. Hell, we could use about 2 more men than we've got, but 1 more would make a heap of difference, wouldn't it, Johnny? Johnny responded with a grin of his own. I reckon that's the truth, all right. I guess we could give you a try, Duke went on. This feller Patterson, I reckon he was paying you about $20 a month, right? No, sir, Carson replied. He was paying me $30. That's the going rate for an experienced cowhand, Duke came back. And right now, you're a pig in a poke. Carson shrugged indifferently, and Duke continued. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a try at 20 until you show me you can cowboy with the rest of us. What do you say? Carson started to reply, but Duke interrupted when a second thought occurred.